All right, we are right at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and start. First, welcome to our first Hoylu product webinar. We are looking forward to having everyone with us today. Part of this, I'm just going to give some quick reminders of the webinar. Don't worry, you are on mute and all of your cameras are off, so we hope that you guys just relax and get to enjoy today's webinar. We are going to have a question and answer session towards the end of the webinar, so please feel free to click on the Q&A that you'll see at the bottom of your Zoom screen and ask any questions throughout, and we'll get to as many as we can throughout the session today. Again, we do have clients from all over the world joining us, so we'd like to see where everyone's from. So please jump into the chat, tell us where you're from, and we'll engage in chat throughout the entire conversation. And we are going to get ready. So again, before we start, if you have seen our new Hoylu Resource Center, add some feedback into the chat for us. We're going to be monitoring that. But before we begin the official webinar, we're going to get a welcome from Truls, our CEO.
Thank you, Josh. Welcome, everyone, and good morning and good afternoon. As just said, we're global, and there's attendees from all over the world here in different time zones. I'm so happy that you're spending, that you would like to spend the time with us for this session, and we really looking forward to get feedback on what we do. And our customers is really important for us, and we trying as best as possible to be as transparent as possible. So I'm also looking forward today to see the roadmap and what we're planning to do going forward. And we would really like to have feedback from you as our customers also going forward. Since we have had success developing our Hoylu modules by doing that in close relationship to our customers. I would like to mention especially the module that we have for construction. We have a pool planning module for construction, and that module has been developed in close relationships to our already current customers. And we are really dependent of getting feedback from you. And also to really understand the business and the need that you have going forward. So by this, I'm really looking forward to this session, and yeah, welcome everyone from Norway.
Thank you, Truls. And I am from Pennsylvania of the United States. With that, we are going to move it over to Ashley next. And Ashley is one of our team members from the customer success team. Many of you may have worked with Ashley already, but Ashley, I'm going to turn it over to you. We're going to drop off our cameras if we're not presenting right now, so you can focus on Ashley and the presentation today.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. And hello from sunny Orlando. I don't know why I'm wearing a sweater, but I wanted to represent Hoylu today. But I'm going to show everybody now a few of the feature updates that we've added, which are huge improvements and a lot of the feedback that we received throughout the past couple of years. And so we in the customer success team have been super duper excited about this part, because now you can open up your toolboxes, open up your sticky note tool on the left-hand side of the toolbox, select your preferred color, select your preferred shape. Let's go with a blue diamond. And now I can double click anywhere in the workspace to start dropping in my content. So now all of your participants are able to get into the workspace, easily add their opinions or their comments as fast as they need to, so that you can continue encouraging that kind of participation from your team. We've also enhanced the sticky note, not just the sticky note, but also the text tool capabilities, in that it mirrors this new sticky note behavior. You can click on the text tool, click on any color that you prefer, and once again, double click directly into the workspace and start adding in content. Additionally, with the text box, you can also drag and drop directly into the workspace the same way you could still do with the sticky notes. So very, very similar behaviors. You don't have to make a huge mental leap to switch back and forth between the two. But another great addition that we've added to the regular behaviors of our Hoylu toolbox is the ability to move content off screen. So now, as I'm dragging all of my content up above, to the right, notice that Hoylu is also following me along. So now I can easily drop all of my content onto a subsequent page without having to cut and paste or zoom in and zoom out, which you can still do, but you have an additional option for you here. And this is something really helpful from a facilitator's perspective as you're dragging content from one section to another in order to continue your discussions. But this is a great addition that we are super excited for in the customer success side, because we've heard all of that feedback from everybody else. Additionally, we've added in the capability of labeling and searching those labels within a workspace. So I can label this particular blue sticky note as critical, and I can hit Command or Control F and type in critical in my workspace. And now it is highlighted in green. I can find exactly where my labels are located across the workspace. So very important for when you're designating work to your team or labeling literally anything you need to. But now I'm going to pivot back over to the poll planning module, which Truls had mentioned, which we're super excited to show off all the time. And for those of you who don't know what poll planning is, it is used in the construction industry to track tasks, maintain visibility and accountability across all different parties involved in a construction project, because they're working backwards from the final milestone to the first in order to address what's needed before accomplishing each individual task. That way you're pulling only necessary actions and coming up with a lean structure and a plan for a project that reduces unnecessary work that don't ultimately achieve the goal. When Truls says module, it's this particular view that I'm showing you here now. Modules are essentially workspaces with a lot more business logic and metadata tied into it, so it's a little bit more intuitive. You have a different type of toolbox and a whole structure that may be built into it to start doing your work as you need to without having to build it all out yourself. We did it for you. So in this particular case, the Hoylu poll planning module looks very much like a Gantt chart style like calendar, where each column represents a week that you can either collapse or expand as you need to see a full breakdown of a day-by-day task tracking within a given week. These rectangles here are essentially sticky notes still, or tasks rather, but they're enhanced sticky notes, in that there's a lot more data tied into them where you can actually status each of these tasks to either commit to it, where you can no longer move this task away from its board because you've committed to doing this particular task on a given day, and then specifying if you've either completed it or marked it as incomplete. So there's a lot more smartness to these particular objects within the workspace. You can also track why certain tasks have not been completed and move the subsequent task to another day so you can plan it out with your team. Each of these colors represents different trades or participants within a construction project. And as a facilitator or an admin, you can pull up a reporting tool here within the module. So this is another enhancement, whereupon you can track how many tasks are complete, how many tasks are unplanned. You can track it and filter it by specific trades. So let's check on Boston Painting Company and see how much they've completed throughout the project. You can also track statuses of individual tasks. So you can see all of the tasks that are unplanned, all of them that are incomplete, and start tracking that with your team. But the biggest addition that we've had so far within the poll planning module is this weekly work plan. And this is especially important because it's a big part of poll planning, this look ahead schedule, which kind of answers the question of what are we doing in the next 2 weeks? So this particular weekly work plan addition allows people on site to actually be able to look at the plan in a more digestible format. It's a better way to visualize what's been committed to without all of the relationship perspectives on the module. And by that, I mean all of the addition of these particular lines, tracking dependencies between tasks and making sure that one task is complete before another one is begun. So there's a lot more added to these modules in poll planning, but that weekly work plan is something that we've gotten a lot of feedback of over the course of the build of this particular module. So we are happy to present it to everybody who would find it extremely valuable. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback since we've released it already. But yeah, let me hand it back over to you then, Josh.
Thank you so much. And as we're looking at this, you're going to hear that word module more and more. And as we work as a team and collaboratively with our partners, we are going to ask you, what modules are you looking for in the industry, and what's going to help you from a feature request perspective as well. So with that, we actually took your feedback. We've heard some of your requests, and we created a new Agile planning module that released in our April release. And Jakob from our team, he's the head of our product design, is going to actually present to you the actual Agile planning module and talk a little bit more about it today.
All right. Could I please? Yes, perfect. Thank you. Taking over screen sharing here. Yeah, so thank you, Ashley, for a great introduction to the pool planning module. I will spend a little bit more time on the Agile planning module, but before we go into that, I want to give a little bit of background why we decided to go this route with modules and not just throwing all of that functionality into the whiteboarding part of our application. And then I also want to spend a little bit of time talking about integrations in particular as well. So we started focusing on normal whiteboarding tool set because that offers a lot of flexibility. It's something where, especially in COVID times, if you want to collaborative visually, it's something that has become very commonplace. And the main parts that are relevant for us there is you have a lot of flexibility. It's easy to use. We are particularly proud to have a very concise and elegant feature set, trying to keep it as simple as possible, but as complex as needed. You can definitely very quickly share the content with other people. You can easily invite guests, so there's no need for a complex sign-up process as there might be for more specialized tools. And of course, you have a lot of interactivity. So you could have 20 people in a session, which really replicates, for example, what you would see in a large pool planning session, in a physical one, where 20 people are together in the same room and work with sticky notes. But with modules, we felt that with many of those processes, there's a lot of repetitive tasks that we can automate, that we can speed up. So the idea with modules really is to provide additional workflow support. So with that automation and speed, think of a roadmap where you want to change the milestone date at the end. If you do that manually, you basically have to update all of the dates manually. With the pool planning module, you basically just change anchor dates, in a single place, and it will update the entire calendar for you. Or if you, for example, change the work week, you can do that, and the tasks will automatically adjust to the new work days. And you will see, how specific days off or extending maybe the work week to include Saturday, how that affects your plan. And that all happens automatically. And given that there's a lot more smartness in the module itself, but also in the elements that we put into those workspaces, you can generate those insights and then hopefully adapt your processes accordingly. And the modules also allow us to manage the complexity within the application. So, of course, we could start adding all of those functionalities to the core whiteboarding application as well. But then we're really drifting away from this ease of use. So the idea with module is that we pick a specific workflow, a specific industry, we go way deeper, but still keep the whiteboarding functionality somewhat separate. Of course, you can use it within the module as well. And as we're building out different modules, you essentially pick the module that fits your workspace, but you don't get slowed down or confused with functionality that you won't really need. And the last part that kind of spans across those both modules and the normal whiteboarding functionality is integrations into third-party tools. So we both allow kind of one-way integrations where you can, for example, quickly import P6 tasks into a pool planning module, and it generates all of those tasks for you, so you don't have to do that manually. But we also offer two-way synchronizations with tools like Agility or Jira, and that's obviously a much faster and less error-prone way to get data into the workspace. You maintain the single source of truth, so you're not duplicating information in multiple places. But it also gives you the ability to kind of create a high-level view on that data. So with the whiteboarding tool, we can abstract away complexity that you don't need to see. And given that we have all of the interactivity and the whiteboarding sharing functionality embedded, it also allows you to give people access to that data that are not necessarily part of that other third-party tool. So take Jira, for example. You don't need to have a Jira account to be able to see some of the data that you're exposing via that integration. So for today, my plan is to walk through some steps. I just wanted to show you how to create new tickets, sync them back into Jira, show a little bit how you can customize the new Agile planning module, show how to import a couple of existing tickets, in that case then from Agility, just to show off a couple of different integrations and how you structure that stuff then within the workspace. And then with the Agile planning module being a newer module, we are definitely looking into what are insights that we can draw. So that's where we're a little bit not as far as we are with the pool planning module, but we have lots of ideas. But I think it's the right time to kind of share where we are today so you can help us steer in the right direction. So with that, let's assume that we start with the brainstorming session. So that's kind of core whiteboard functionality. You know, it's, of course, even though I'm in a module, I still have all of the functionality available. I can create new ideas. But where it gets interesting now is that, let's say we have picked a couple of stories, maybe people have voted on them, maybe they have added labels as well. And I would like to push that information now back into Jira. So what I can do is I can select this, can go into the context menu here and say, I want to send this particular task to Jira. And I'm already logged in with my personal account. So there's no account sharing. The system knows exactly which projects I have access to. Let's pick the first one here and say, since that's going to be the header, that's an epic, and I can send this now back into Jira. And what just happened is it replaced my normal dump whiteboard note into a Jira ticket here. And the content is added as a title here for that node. So if I click on this now, there's a link automatically generated. So if I need to add additional information, additional details, I can jump right into Jira and I could go for adding some more details here, for example. If I save this now and maybe also assign another user here, if I go back now into Hoylu, we have an automated mechanism that will update all of the tickets that have received changes every couple of minutes. And that is to reduce strain on the system itself. But you can simply double click any ticket. And at that point, it will pull in all of the latest information. And then the other way around is possible as well. So I can also add some more info here. And if I save this, that information will get pushed back into Jira as well. So if I open it up again, you can see that the description has been updated with that information. And what's neat is that you have the entire history available as well. So I'm logged in here with my Hoylu QA account. I also am logged into Hoylu application with the Hoylu QA account. So everything is tracked back to me. So if there's any questions around that ticket, that information goes back right to me. And you can do the same thing for multiple tickets at the same time as well. So I could say, you know, let's say that these are the ones that have been upvoted. So I would like to convert those into, that case, Jira tasks maybe. Then I can do this as a batch operation as well, and they will get converted one by one. Let's give it a minute here. So that is really moving from kind of the free-form whiteboarding application style of work to something that's a little bit more structured. And that's where the Agile planning module comes in. So if I move down here, you can see that I have a Kanban board here, and I can now start dragging those tasks into that module. And you will already see that the tasks resize, they automatically get the new label assigned, this back label, which stands for backlog. And as I start moving elements around, you can also see that the color changes based on where it is. And those are the kinds of workflow optimizations and speedups that we try to do to help you visualize where the current status is and help you structure the information the way you need it. And with the Agile planning module, we also started to make this much more flexible so it fits your own needs. With pool planning, obviously, everyone is sharing the same type of calendar. You always have a seven-day week. Here, you can go in and you can customize all of the columns, all of the sections as you would like. So let's say we needed an additional section because we want to also track if something is in testing. For example, we give it another label name to show up as well. I add that, and that should, for example, go before done. So then I can easily do that. And I can, of course, also jump into existing sections. So if we want to, I don't know, rename this to ready, then that is possible as well. And it's, of course, also possible to then remove elements as well. And I think where it gets really interesting now is that we have taken this concept that we already have for pool planning, where we are trying to not only have a single team be able to work in a workspace, but to also zoom out and get a higher level view. So like in the pool planning application, you can collapse those boards, and you could have multiple teams work on same or different topics within the same workspace. And there's a couple of things that happen here. So on the one hand, you can see you get a more abstract view of the ticket. So some of the description is missing just to give you a more high level view of the ticket itself. You can see that there is different color coding here. So the different columns can be set up in different ways. You can, of course, add additional ones if you want. And you can also configure presets so that if you have a column setup that you like, you can save that and recall it afterwards also. So there's a couple of options here, like, for example, being able to recolor based on the section color or stick with manual recoloring. So if you would like to, override that the way you want, that's of course still possible. Going to keep that enabled. You can also decide whether I would like to see that detailed view or not. And there's a bunch of other options here available as well. And we still keep this separation between admins that have more controls. If you come in as a normal user, as just a normal contributor, or even as read-only, a lot of that complexity will be abstracted away from you. So you won't get all of those settings. It's way easier for you. There's also less chance that you run into a problem or an error. So if I open that up here again. So yeah, I've mentioned that we have basically a couple of labels showing up here, and that would be a Kanban template, so you could change track the status here. But again, even that is fully customizable. So if we zoom out here a little bit, we see a combination of I would say a more traditional whiteboard area, maybe where normal notes are used, or maybe where even more specific tasks are used in combination with the module. And that would be a setup maybe for a PI planning session, so something that is higher level. You have multiple teams planning out the next couple of sprints, and you can have all of them come into that workspace. You have them break out into different sections. There's areas on the board that everyone needs to be aware of. And you can really, facilitate that as part of the workshop, but you can then, after the workshop, come back and really track your progress and see how you're doing in the workspace as well. So it's not just about facilitating the workshop, but then really having something that you can come back to and see how you're progressing as you go through that. So I'm briefly going to show you how we allow for integrating existing things. So for a PI planning session, you wouldn't start from scratch. So if you go here on the top right corner, there's a way to insert. I'm going to pick agility here. And you have this import mode where you can filter by different planning levels. So that would be the equivalent of projects in Jira. You can filter by different epics or portfolio items and so on and so forth. And then you can pick a couple of these and either drag and drop them directly into the workspace, or you could also just hit import here. And then the window automatically minimizes, so it's up here. If you have applied any filters, you can always get back to it. But now you have those tickets, and I've just placed them here in the parking lot, but I could also select them and then move them into a column, and they will automatically rearrange. Another way to look into importing tickets is by clicking on those upstream and downstream dependencies indicators. So if there is dependencies between tickets, you can click on them and you can see there's a couple that are already part of the workspace and they get highlighted. If they're off screen, you will even navigate to that space. Or you could also say there is new tickets that I can insert into the workspace. And those get then pulled in directly. So I don't have to search for them manually. it knows that this is an upstream dependency, and I could actually do the same thing here as well. So there's no further upstream dependencies. Downstream dependencies get added to the right, assuming that they will by default land in a different iteration, but you can of course drag them around. So these are the kinds of interactions that we are trying to build out to improve the workflows. And of course, the Agile planning module being a very flexible one, you could theoretically even set it up to be more of a weekly work plan, for example. So that leaves me with a short outlook on the Agile planning module specifically. So we have already integrated a preset for Kanban and PI planning. We are looking into roadmaps, in particular also in combination with the pool planning module, but I think there's a lot of potential for program boards, for story mapping, for essentially weekly plans like I've just shown. So that's really where we are collecting feedback at the moment to kind of plan our path forward. And yeah, with that, I will hand it back to Josh. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me move back a little bit. We do have questions that are coming in, but as a reminder, feel free to use the Q&A section of Zoom at the bottom here. And with that, I also want to remind everyone, if you do have questions or you want to see anything else outside of today's webinar, feel free to reach out to our customer success and support team, and they'll be happy to guide you along the way. With that, we are going to go into the roadmap discussion. And then I'm going to give this disclaimer. Every time we talk about roadmap, I often reference the safe harbor. What we're going to present to you today is what we're thinking. Things may change, and if you are, depending on making any type of purchasing decisions of the product, make it as it stands today, not what we're basing on our roadmap. With that, we're going to look at our roadmap perspective here. Here you can see what we're calling our strategic vision for client success through 2022. You'll see that we're laying them out in quarters. Our quarters start in January through December 31st. So Q1 was that January to March timeframe where you saw that we pushed out some improvements to our group enriched texting. You saw that we worked on our integrations. We were enhancing our integrations or even our alignments with P6 and Microsoft Project. And we continue to make those enhancements with Jira and Agility. I know one of our questions that we have is around Agility, so we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But do know we are working and taking your feedback to help us design these modules and these relevant workspaces that are going to help not just your team advance, but again, your partners as well. With that, we also determined that we were going to sunset Hoylu Wall. That was what we originally started off as a company, but COVID hit and the world changed. And we learned that we have to work more collaboratively in different locations across the world. And to do that, we wanted to bring in our workspaces and modules in a collaborative effort so we can take those complex projects and make them more simplified for you. We moved into Q2 where we are right now. We did release that Agile planning module that you just saw from Jakob. And right now, we're in that current build of working on the management portal, what that management portal is going to look like. We're redesigning that and making it more effective as a portal with your licensing. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes as well. But as you can see, we also launched that resource center, in-app guide trainings, and the ability to give feedback. This was a key release for us, even in April and May. And one of the reasons we really did this is because we heard your feedback about training. You wanted to onboard your new team members or even your subcontractors. You wanted them to be able to jump in and utilize Hoylu right away. So these in-app guides will actually take you through that process of training processes, and we're continuing to build them. We're going to continue to enhance them. And later this week, we're also going to be pushing out, and it's likely to be later this afternoon, a feedback portal, which I'll get into in just a little bit as well. But we want to hear your feedback. We are only going to improve and design the way that we need to based off your interaction. And that's where, when we're designing our process and we're moving and pull planning to Q3, and we're looking at the Agile planning and the additional notifications that we're going to release, we're going to need your help with that. We are looking at designing a pull planning mobile app as well. That was some of the feedback that we had come into play. But you can see as we move along into Q4, we're looking at the dashboard. What's that dashboard going to be? How's it going to be designed? What user interface is going to be the best for all of our clients and future clients as well? But then you see I have in question mark that new module. Why do I have that in question? We're researching. We're trying to understand the market. We're trying to understand what your needs are as clients and future clients as well, because we have perspectives on this call today. So we can help design the best product and best features that will align to the industries of your needs. So with that, you're going to see, we're going to go in a little bit deeper. We took that 12-month time frame and we relooked at it into themes. So our roadmap theme for this one was basic functionality. And you'll see we're being very transparent and saying, here's what our objective is as a company. We want to increase product usage and customer satisfaction. For those of you that have already completed it, you're going to see an NPS score pop up in Hoylu. We're asking that because we want your feedback. We want to know how you feel about Hoylu and what we can improve. Some of those areas were around productivity features. So you can see that we're looking at comments and notifications. We've heard keyboard shortcuts are needed, that Control S or that Alt S, it depends on what type of system that you utilize. Even our shape library, we're seeing feedback coming in that even our colors for the agility, add more colors. So we're watching that feedback that you guys are providing, and we're making strategic decisions as a product team on how do we align that. Management portal, we talked about just a second ago, but adding more to that, we're looking to add more and be able to have you guys add and remove users and licenses to those users. We're also looking to be having to add projects in there and add users to and from those projects, letting you have full control of what's available. And that's also looking at it from a security perspective, giving you more manageable abilities to use the security settings for project users. Accessibility has also been a key focus for us here at Hoylu. Not only do we want to make sure that your teams can be collaborative, we want to make sure that all of your team members have the ability to utilize our tools. And as we advance into the next 12 months and 18 months, and even the 24 months timeframe, we are working to be more accessible by completing the international standard, the WCAG 2.1 AA standard. That's a mobile-friendly standard. You saw that we were looking to build our mobile portal for poll planning. Well, with that comes the certain standards that we need to have to make sure your teams have the ability to work together, no matter who they are or what accessibility needs they may have. To do that, we're working with a third-party auditing company. And to do that, we've already completed our first VPAT. Our VPAT is out there on the Hoylu knowledge base. You can go to support.hoylu.com to access that. But we're going to be transparent. We are currently 75% fully compliant with WCAG 2.1. But we also have a remediation plan in phase and process. So we have that laid out for you as well in our accessibility corrective action plan through 2022, 2023. So again, transparency is key here. And that's what we want you to see, that we're being transparent as we work into our projects and how we build things out. Security, again, highest level of security that we're working at. In June, we're going to be releasing for our enterprise users a two-factor authentication that you have the ability to engage, if you so choose, for your orgs, a two-factor authentication. We're also going through the ISO certification. We completed phase 1 successfully and moving into phase 2. And earlier this year, we did go ahead and launch that system status page for notifications, that you have the constant communication going on if there's something wrong within our systems and it's not working to par. We're going to keep letting you know, and you always have the ability to go right to our system status page on the Hoylu knowledge base to understand what's going forward with that. With that, we're going to move into the next area here. And that is going to be integrations and alignments with imports and exports. We've already worked on the enablement of the CSV exports for all workspaces. We're trying to engage with that and continue moving. We also hear, you want better PDF exports. We are constantly working on that. You can see we did that weekly plan and how you can export all of those areas and just hand out that PDF. But that's going to need improvement. We understand that and we know that. We're also working on those integrations. We're going to continue our enhancements with Jira, but also do additional integrations with potentially Azure DevOps and other areas that, again, once we hear you need that need, we'll work with that. Currently, we do have alignment with P6 and Microsoft Project. Through our simple CSV imports, you have the ability to bring into that data into the Hoylu system and continue to work from that process. Again, with any of these, if you have questions, as I say, these things are available, feel free to reach out to our customer success team. We are here to help you along that way. I also want to go into the next area here, and you're going to see that's focusing more on the construction and civil engineering area as well. We have and we are continuing to make improvements to our poll planning. You can see, again, our objective here is to increase client satisfaction and actually capture that industry market share. We are going to have a competitive challenge for ourselves as well, because we want to make sure we're, again, we are the best in the market. We know we are now, and we want to continue to be as we move forward. With that, enhancements to pull planning. You can see, again, specific mobile app design in there. We're looking at making dependency improvements and milestone improvements based off your feedback. That's what's helping us. That creation of new modules, excuse me, what are they going to look like? What are they going to be? We're looking at potentially value stream mapping or TAC planning, with pull planning. We don't know exactly what that's going to be, but we're working on it. We have multiple scenarios, and you're going to see us over the next few weeks and months utilizing our new feedback tools to ask you the question. If we see that you're utilizing pull planning, don't be surprised if you see a pop that says, "Hey, do you like this?" Or, are you thinking this may be a better approach? You may see our product team reaching out to you in collaboration with our customer success team to ask, can we meet with you for a half hour, 45 minutes? Because we want to hear your feedback and we want your guidance on what new modules are needed to make your teams successful. And I'm not going to spend too much with the PI planning and Kanban piece because Jakob referenced a lot of that. And we released our Agile planning module. But again, I have it here because it's something that we did based off your feedback. It's what we heard was a need in the market and what will help your teams be more collaborative. And again, make those complex projects more simplified. We're going to continue in here to looking at, the Agile planning partnerships. We've talked a little bit about that, but, we're looking at the functionality, even as we built the Agile planning module. What's that going to look like? How are we going to advance the reporting features? What imported dependency visualizations do we need? So though we created something, it doesn't mean that's where we're ending. We're going to continue to make those improvements because we truly want to develop a one-of-a-kind Agile planning module that supports the needs of the industry, not just today, not just tomorrow, but a year from now. We want to give you that innovative tool that's going to help your teams think better, work smarter, and obviously save on resources as well. And finally, we're going to go into another area here. I keep talking about feedback. We want your feedback. We want to hear what you're thinking. Coming today or again later this week, potentially tomorrow as well, we're going to be releasing a feedback portal inside our Hoylu Resource Center. So you can see down at the bottom, we have that little icon for our Hoylu Resource Center. What you'll be able to do there, similar to how you can check out the training guides, there's going to be a feedback request there where we want to hear you. And you'll be able to open up a portal. And not only do we want to hear you, we're going to tell you what we're doing and how we're doing it and when we're doing it in that aspect. You can see things are planned. These are areas that are truly planned right now that we're going to be working on. But once it moves in from a plan phase to a building phase, we're going to continue to communicate that with you. But we want your continued feedback. You'll be able to see in this what's coming section of your client feedback portal, the ability to vote. If you see something that someone else has referenced from another company or one of your colleagues have referenced, you can say, yes, we want this. We want to follow this. And again, we're going to be giving constant communication with you as those feature requests move through that process. And I'm going to be transparent. There may be times where some things are just like, it's not going to work in the next 12 months. So you may get that declined message, but don't worry about the declined message being something that we're never going to do. We're saying that decline message just means it's something that we're going to be focusing on in the next 12 months or so after. Like right now, we're focused on certain areas, but we're taking that feedback and we're hearing you. We're also going to have signs where it says awaiting feedback. If you see something that says awaiting feedback, we ask that you look at that description and see what's in there. We want to hear your comments on this. We want your input into this. You can easily say in the comments, hey, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about this. Trust me, we're going to take you up on that offer because we want to hear your voice as we do our designs. We also, again, are looking long-term. As a company, we're not just focusing on the next 12 months, the next 18 to 24 months. We're also trying to figure out what we need to do in advance in the company over the next 5 years, 3 to 5 years. We hit some areas in 2021 that we wanted to highlight. Again, COVID happened. We had to make a quick transition to support our clients in 2020 and 2021. And with that, we're also looking at here's what we're doing in 2022. Everything that we referenced here in 2022 is laid out. Where are we thinking in 2023, 24, and 25? And this is where we have it more laid out for you. You can see, we're looking for areas of growth, partnering with other companies and organizations that may help with the integrations. How can we potentially work with Microsoft Project and how can we work with more aligned with P6? We're going to start investigating and looking at that as well. We're also going to start looking at how technology is advancing and how artificial intelligence can play a role in supporting your teams to, again, think faster, think stronger, and look and utilize resources in a more effective way. And that might be through assisted tasks. Or as you can see in 2024, we're looking at supported processes through artificial intelligence. We're also looking at, looking at different trends that are going to occur and building off of the advancements we've already made. You can see, yes, we're focused on some of those automated working environments now, but we're going to be working on that through 2025 as well and continue to grow and operate as a company as we move forward through that process. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions and answers. I know we have some questions that came in. I will have Ashley and Jakob join back up onto screen with me here as well as we get into some of those questions. And be prepared, guys, you may need to take over the screen because some of those areas may just require that you guys, if you want to jump in and show them physically how to do that. One of the first questions that we had came in from Jeremy. Jeremy's question was, with the weekly work plan that was shown, were the reports, will that be available for different trades as well? Right now, I think we should, but would the weekly work plans be available for trades?
Yes, that should be something anybody can click on when they go into the pole planning module on the right-hand side of the collapsed swim lane columns. Just by that. And then the drop-down says weekly work plan. You can filter through based off of areas of work or also by trade specifically.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you. Ashley, this question is probably going to also be for you. I know you might have a workaround. Ashley is our workaround guru. She will always help us and help our clients. So she's never going to say no. She's going to help you figure out a how. So with that, sticky notes was the question. Is there a way to do a top left align by default in a sticky note?
I'm told not to say no, but like not quite. So what you can do also, if you would like to do this, is essentially start a stack of sticky notes on the top left-hand side. What I'm going to do here is select the sticky note that I just dropped. I'm going to hit on my keyboard Control-C to copy, and then I'm just going to keep hitting Control-V to paste on top of it. So now I have created essentially a stack of sticky notes. It's not an automated way of doing it. Like as soon as you start typing, hit enter, it creates a new sticky note, hit enter again, it creates a new sticky note. I don't think we're quite there.
Okay, but I'm going to reference for our customer that asked that question, that is a great feedback request, a feature request that you can put in there as well. So when that comes out, though I noted it here, and we'll put it in there, but make sure you give the thumbs up and do a vote on that one as well then. Other questions that we have that came in, and again, if you have additional questions, feel free to jump and add them into the Q&A session down at the bottom. You'll see the little Q&A chat box. Carl asked, I like the ability to create a ticket in Jira. Are there any plans to have similar functionality for digital agility version 1? And Jakob, I'm going to let you jump in to answer that one.
Short answer is yes, and you might actually have already spotted it on the roadmap as well. So that is something that we're definitely planning to do. And we are going to get back to some agility work and in general agile planning module work within the next couple of sprints. So I can't guarantee that it will end up being delivered in the next 2 or 3 months, but it's definitely one item that we will work on. Yes.
Thank you. Another question that came in, has there been or is there plans for any updates on exporting from Hoylu? Example that they gave was able to select what pages areas to export. Would it be possible, for example, to export in an editable format similar to PowerPoint or even a PDF?
So we are looking into giving you more control over how you export. Josh has already mentioned that depending on the module, we might actually also give you much more specialized views like the weekly work plan. But we want to improve the experience how you navigate workspaces. So right now you can set the homepage, but we would like to expand that functionality to allow you to bookmark multiple pages and then just select and export those, for example. So there's more functionality coming in that direction. As for additional formats, we haven't really gone into that, given that we also support interactive content like videos, or you can link out through portals through interactive pages. And that's already kind of a stretch to support that in PDF in a meaningful way as well. So we much rather, I would say, focus on making the sharing experience more easy, so you can actually bring people within Hoylu. But if you have any additional kind of requests why that is relevant for you, we'll definitely interested in that. And I would suggest that you I don't know, add those additional details in a feature request through Panda then.
Thank you. And I'm tracking this feedback piece. This feedback may be actually coming out in like the next few hours. So do watch that, and we'll make sure the announcement appears in the Hoylu Resource Center. So as we're watching this webinar, we're having real-time work going on with our engineering team. So do know that's coming forward faster than I was hoping for today, which is great for you guys. With that, we have another question that's coming in. Is there a limit in zoom out magnifier could be for it to be possible to zoom out more? Like, is there a way to go do the percentage to zoom out higher or lower? Ashley, I think that might be a question for you to answer for us.
It depends on the size of your screen. This is as far as I can go, and I think I have a pretty big monitor, second monitor right now. But Jakob, I think that's a little bit more on your side about how much more we can zoom in or zoom out.
Yeah, so one thing that we're doing, which you obviously won't notice because it happens off screen, is loading and unloading resources. You have to keep in mind that we have no limit as to how many pages you can create within a Hoylu workspace. So we have had customers that literally created hundreds of pages within those workspaces, and Chrome or Firefox will eventually give out on having too much content available. And limiting the zoom level is one of the optimizations that we do to keep the load on your computer somewhat manageable. We have improved loading performance and overall performance every now and then, and we have actually increased the zoom level in both directions before also. So that is definitely something that is possible, but there are some caveats with in regards to performance that we have to keep in mind, especially since we want to be very accessible. We want to make sure that it is running smoothly on most of the devices. And that's the kind of balance that we are trying to hit here.
Okay, thank you. We have a lot of questions coming in with the new weekly work plan. Ashley, I'm going to ask you to go back into that weekly work plan for us and just show us more of how it works and how it aligns. You can give a real life example. Say I'm a general manager and I need to get something out to one of my subcontractors. You can pick whichever one you want within your list that you have there. Can you just show us how you can look at it based off that trade or even the status of the project?
Sure. So let me pick a different trade here. Let's go back to Boston Painting Company. So I can see all of the tasks that they have on their calendars essentially for the subsequent 4 weeks, but I can also shorten it to 2 weeks if this is more of a make ready plan versus a look ahead. I can start on the current week or the following. I can also set the status to see how many have actually been committed to, which in this particular poll plan, none. So that's a bit of a bad example, but I'm going to go back into unplanned and planned perhaps. There we go. So I can start actually seeing how many of these tickets are statused properly, if they're marked as incomplete or incomplete, how many days are spanning within each task on the top right-hand side here. And then I can export it to PDF. And from here, this is when you can have a little bit more of a tangible paper to hand to your supervisor on site. So it's a little bit more manageable. You're not having to drag around this whole workspace in order to just see what you need for 2 weeks, because this is a lot. I could see that totally. So that's why we made this a little bit more digestible. But yes, you can modify a lot of this based off of the filters that you need up above. I don't have a whole lot of experience based off of like on ground experience. I've never been on a construction site, but this is essentially how you can manipulate it based off of your needs.
Yep, and your drop down that you just showed for the number of weeks, that was one of the other questions. How far out in advance can you look? And you can see that it can go 1 week, 2 week, 4 week, all the way up to 12 weeks in that perspective. So you have the ability to collect a lot of that information in this expanded process. Another question that came in, similar to this weekly work plan as well, is there a way of tracking how often the weekly schedule is being changed and who is making those changes?
Let me think about that real quick. Can you repeat?
Sure. is there a way of tracking how often the weekly schedule is being changed and who is making those changes? And I think that might be an Ashley and Jakob question.
Jakob, I might need your help on that one. I can't tell if it's permission settings or controlling your subs.
I think it's probably more related to something like an activity log where you're tracking how tasks change over time. So given that we want to, basically what we're doing is we are guiding users that are assigned to specific trades to obviously only modify their own trades. So you will get warnings if you are starting to editing tickets from another person. We will also show that this task has been edited by someone else. So it will then show up as a label that you can track back how changes happen. In general, we track all of the changes that happen to a workspace. So from the first node that got dropped in all the way to the current status, including every element that has ever been created or deleted. We are not currently making that available through the UI, but we have had requests where we were digging into the information to kind of, look back into specific things. I know that large plans can actually be part of a contractual framework, and it might be very important to understand which trades made changes. So there's a possibility for us to access that data, but it comes back again to what is manageable within a certain interface and also loading times effectively. So a workspace that contains all of its history might be 100 times larger than the last status. So we are currently focusing more on making sure that we reach as many devices and as many people as possible. But we store all of that information, and in a future iteration, we might actually make it available. So you have all of that history. So far, it's kind of by request only for those kind of high urgency situations that we dive into the information directly.
Perfect. And you kind of hinted on one of my other questions that's coming in from Robert here. And Robert's question was, what is the recommended max number of pages in the basic whiteboard mode to avoid loading issues? They referenced they're not sure if it's also dependent on other factors. I do want to reference, if you saw in our February and March release, especially around the pool planning, we did make load enhancements so the systems would load faster. We got some of that feedback. But Jakob, do you want to talk a little bit about it with the basic whiteboarding space and the loading?
It's very hard to kind of give a general answer here because it will depend very much on your machine. So we are, like any kind of graphics heavy application, dependent on what kind of graphics card, what kind of processor you have. And then, of course, also the type of content that is being rendered. So I would say that we are in kind of our DNA had always a strong emphasis also on making it work on large format displays and multiple screens at the same time. And for those kind of scenarios, we always assume that you have a relatively powerful workstation driving this. So if you are looking at a setup where you have two 4K screens, we normally expect you to have kind of a workstation that has the necessary power. But I would definitely recommend to run on an up-to-date browser. I think that's one of the things that you can control. And then in terms of the content itself, anything that is like no images, anything that's Hoylu native content, so nodes, tasks, all of that has extremely low bandwidth requirements. And we have pool planning workspaces that have thousands of tasks in them. So building up, the loading part is actually the part that probably only takes 10% of the entire time. The rest really is attributed to how fast can your computer process the data that's coming in. So you will even feel loading improvements when you upgrade your local machine, because it's loading the data, given that it's not a lot of data that we have to transfer in a lot of cases, is just amounts to a short percentage of that. It's really how you then render everything, you structure everything. So yeah, that's a recommendation that I can give if you see extremely slow load times. But we are definitely dependent on processor and graphics card. on that.
Thank you so much for that one. And we are narrowing down, so I just want to get to some of the final questions here that we have. And I'll jump in on this one. One of the questions was around our security and Hoylu's compliance with security. Hoylu takes security extremely serious. It's one of our biggest things that we look at on every single design that we do. I will follow up with those that have asked specific security questions via email, so do wait for that and follow up. But you can also check out our security page on the Hoylu knowledge base. It gives you all of our latest certifications, anything that we're focusing on. And also, again, it aligns to our system status page. And if you're not already, make sure that you're following that status page. You have the ability to like that and get those additional updates. But we are currently compliant with the most recent security pieces, and we will always remain and focus to be fully accessible, as we talked about accessibility, and with the highest level of security. Again, we just completed phase 1 of our ISO certification, going into that phase 2 step as we speak. Another question that came in was more around the whole collaboration perspective. And the question came in from Gabrielle around any other characteristics to collaborate in the tool more interactively, more specifically, the total number of people be able to act within the tool at the same time and be in Hoylu at the same time. And I think this is the best question to end the day with. Because again, we want to take those complex projects and make them simplified. And Ashley, I'm going to let you answer this question. How many people can go into a Hoylu workspace and work collaboratively?
The maximum that I've seen with my own eyes, and I'm not on the product team, was about 100 people. They were all in there dropping in content at the same time. I always try to encourage, stop this whole scribe and talker behavior of somebody doing all the typing and other people doing all the talking. So that's what we really encouraged in that one. And there was so many different teams all working together in separate sections of the workspace. So it's not all on top of each other with 100 plus people. I think we've tested up to 600, Jakob. I don't know. Yeah, he's nodding a little bit.
I think the limit is really how much can you handle as a moderator and not what the system can handle in terms of a technical. So I think that's probably the more realistic limit that you'll hit. So
yeah, that's kind of where I would step in as whenever we're workshopping something and I'm your CS manager and I'm telling you maybe 100 people might be a bit much, not for loading issues, but primarily because now you have to have oversight of all of that content and kind of bouncing back and forth across 15 teams is a bit much for one facilitator. So that's when we start breaking it out into separate workspaces. But we're trying to make sure everybody's getting in there. Everybody can say their piece. You can also say it anonymously if you want to be a little contentious because you're not beholden to what you're dropping in a sticky note unless you're putting your name on it. So that was really, really interesting to see that much happening on one workspace that particular 2 days. It's like a big workshop. Really interesting.
Perfect. Thank you. I can tell you the person that asked that question followed up with, in capital words, wow, okay, exclamation point, exclamation point. So again, we thank everyone for joining us today in our first quarterly product webinar. Expect this to happen again in Q3 and Q4 and moving forward. If you want to take this recording, we are going to be sending this out again to everyone that registered for the event today. Feel free to share with your colleagues as well if they weren't able to join and register. And we hope that you are able to attend our next quarterly webinar coming in Q3. With that, we're going to end today and thank everyone again for your time and joining us today. Everyone at Hoylu appreciates you and we say thank you. Have a great day, everyone.